Finding Common Battlegrounds is an attempt by two brothers, one conservative, the other progressive, to have civil conversations about politics with a little help from their friends.
Okay, welcome to Finding Common Battlegrounds. Finding Common Battlegrounds, the political podcast for sophisticated listeners, right? So this is the podcast where we debate political topics, but we, instead of trying to tear the other side apart, we actually try to find common ground amongst each other and see how much we can agree upon. And you'll be surprised, and I often am surprised at how much we end up, that there's usually more that we agree upon than we don't. So let's, today we're going to be talking about are conservatives anti-science? And today I have my regular debaters, Ryan and Josh Cragen, brothers, but other than that, that's about all they have in common. They are politically and ideologically polar opposites. So Josh is our conservative and Ryan is our flaming liberal. But before we get started, I just want to do a shout out to our sponsor, Lux Bidet. And remember, if you want to get one of these bad boys, just refer someone to subscribe to our channel and they can email us. The email will be in the video links and is available. You should be able to find it just below. And also, secondly, if you have any questions that you want to ask to us, feel free to ask in the comments and we will address that in a follow-up podcast because we like getting comments and we like people, if something wasn't clear or if they want us to go in further into something, we'd love to do that.
Questions, comments, or if you want to rant about how dumb Ryan is, because I get a lot of that kind of feedback, bring it, send it in. We love it.
I actually do. I love it when people tell me I'm stupid because I love telling them I love showing them how wrong they are.
All right. So without further ado, let's jump into it. So after conservative Republicans have continuously opposed some initiatives like climate change and vaccination mandates, many have accused conservatives of not believing in science. This has kind of been an ongoing jab made by the left. And in fact, it was just made of late by the Biden administration when they were campaigning. They made a statement that they have a team of scientific advisors that will lead with science and truth. It was sort of a dig at the outgoing Trump administration. And this has been made by John Kerry. Many candidates have in previous elections, but many candidates have made those jabs at the Republican party and at conservatives in general. So we're going to talk about that today. And so we're going to go ahead and jump into it. I'll start with one of Ryan's questions and for Josh. And so, and just to explain, we have three questions that have been prepared by each side. They'll be asked those questions and see if they can get the other party to agree. And they get they get bonus points, brownie points, if they can get the other side to agree more. So, all right. Josh, can we agree that science is a method, not the people who do it or the resulting findings? Ryan, clarify that.
Yep. As always, I like to try and find some common ground at the outset. As a scientist, I do pay attention to how people talk about science. It seems as though many people conflate scientists with science and or scientific findings with science. So I want to just kind of tear that apart for a second. Science is a method of inquiry that involves coming up with falsifiable theories about the natural world, meaning theories that can be shown to be wrong, right? Gathering data to test those theories and then evaluating that data using the best tools possible to arrive at conclusions regarding those theories. To reiterate that, a scientist is someone who uses that method. Einstein, Darwin, and Bandura are not science. They are scientists. So science is not the scientists. And scientific findings are the results of using the method. They are not the method. Knowing that strep throat is caused by a bacterial infection is the result of science. It is not science itself. So I just like clarifying from the outset that science is not the findings, science is not the scientists. It's a method of trying to understand the natural world. So, Josh, can we agree that science is a method, not the people who do it or the resulting findings?
These are like the lowest hanging fruit questions. Jesus
My next
Christ.
one's even lower.
This is ridiculous. I'll just clarify. There are a lot of scientists, air quotes, out there that they propose something and then they say, "Well, I'm a scientist. How dare you question me?" And this is part of the problem. Like with Fauci, I'm a scientist. You can't question what I'm saying about COVID, but then we know he's lying. So as long as a scientist is properly applying scientific method, which is to say they're proposing on a hypothesis and then they're trying to disprove it, because that's the proper way to do it. Absolutely. And obviously I'm agreeing with you, but there's so many scientists out there that don't properly institute the scientific method and then claim that they're a scientist and they're infallible, and that drives me crazy. And that is, I mean, I'm not going to go into the weeds on that, but I think that is part of the disconnect with the right. But yes, I agree.
That's almost entirely my second point too. So,
Okay.
but that's fine. We'll hit my second point because I do want to clarify like what we're doing there. But we have agreement, Tom. We don't even.
Yay. Okay.
No dingers, no buzzers.
Did you hear my dinger?
I never hear it. It's
All right,
usually,
I did.
usually
Do
a
it,
buzzer.
I'll do it again. Yeah, it's usually a buzzer. All right. Okay, well, let's just move on then. For Ryan, would you agree that conservatives are generally conservative?
No, no. I reject that tautology.
I
You
figured
must.
you would. Okay, this actually requires a bit of explanation. This is going to be my longest point, so just give me a minute or two here. This is really important that people understand this. Okay, there should be, and there generally is, a constant friction between conservatives and progressives, and this is an appropriate thing. It should exist. Okay, progressives are trying to pull our society forward, and conservatives, the role of the and that's the proper place of the progressives. We need to be moving forward, but the proper place of the conservative is to say, this is what has got us this far. Okay, we can't abandon these ideals, these principles that have got us this far. We should appreciate the people that came before us and what they built, because I mean, especially here in America in modern times, this is pretty nice. Okay, this is a great place to live. This is the greatest time and place to live in all of modern history. And to abandon that is folly. Okay, that is the proper place of the conservative to say, let's be very careful moving forward, because everything we've done to this point has got us to a pretty good place. And it's stupid if we abandon these principles. That's the proper place of conservatives. And I'll go more into that in specific instances. And the proper place of the progressives is to say, look, this is not working for everybody ideally. There are areas where we can improve. Let's try this. Let's move here. And I'll get into part of the problem of where the breakdown has been in society, but conservatives are supposed to be conservative. Okay, that's why we are called conservatives. It is our proper place in society to put the brakes on and say, okay, we need to be careful about abandoning things that have got us to this point. Okay, Ryan, would you agree with that?
Yes, absolutely. I totally agree with the point. I mean, I don't love the framing that it's like that's their place in society, because we don't need either of those groups. But yes, I agree.
We
with the point.
absolutely need both of those groups. Why
No,
would we not
I
need both
mean,
of those groups? What
What if
else are we
everybody
gonna
was in the
do?
middle? What if everybody was in the middle and we just didn't fight and we just all got along?
Oh, all right.
Can't we all just be friends?
I'll get
Come
to
on.
that with my closing argument, I guess.
The only thing that I would add is that science, right, as a method, is inherently conservative.
Yeah, that's part of the
It
I already
it
said
is in
that.
fact conservative, and I could talk a lot about it given all the research that I've published over the years. It has been a nonstop battle to get research that challenges the status quo published. Science is inherently conservative.
Sweet. Let's wrap it up right there. Thanks, everybody.
Okay, Josh, you ready for your next question?
Yeah.
Oh, let's see. Sorry. So, all right. Okay, we're moving on. Josh, can we agree that even though it is not perfect, science is the best method for understanding the natural world?
So Josh almost entirely made this point. I mean, he did it in a slightly more negative light than I will. But building on my first point, I want to be clear about what science can deliver and what the limitations of science are. As I noted earlier, science is a method for studying the natural world, and we agree with that. You can't use science to study ghosts. They're supernatural, which is above or beyond nature. It just doesn't work, right? That's not what science does.
What? Haven't you seen those weird shows where they have
Yes.
those specialized
Absolutely.
Geiger counter things?
And
Come
I
on.
think they are
It's totally
the,
quantifiable.
the dumbest, most idiotic shows.
Yeah,
Anybody, if you just pause for
probably
1
accurate.
second and go, wait, if ghosts are supernatural, how can you detect them? Oh my gosh, what are you talking about? You can't use science to study gods, depending on how you define them, right? Because gods are also supernatural. So science can't study anything but the natural world. Point one, right? Science can also generate, and I'm being very careful with my language here, erroneous results. This can happen for a variety of reasons: bad data, poor measurement, biased scientists. I'm throwing that out there for you, Josh. Fraud, manipulation of data, etc. In fact, a number of disciplines, particularly social psychology right now, experimental social psychology, but also some of the health sciences, are currently embroiled in efforts to replicate very popular findings.
Yeah.
Like the claim that people are more honest if they sign an honesty statement at the beginning of a contract instead of at the end. Turns out that data were all the data were faked. It was a complete garbage study that somebody published and got a bunch of attention, but it's all garbage.
Yeah, I remember reading some article about like some are kind of like foundational and more famous studies that there was a group that tried to go back and recreate a lot of them and didn't get the same results.
Yeah, so it's a replication crisis is what another one that was like really popular, and it's the same guy who did a whole bunch of these.
Yeah.
One person said that if you use a smaller plate, you'll eat less. Turns out when they tried to replicate that, they couldn't replicate that. So there are a whole bunch of these studies that got a lot of attention. And it turns out when you actually try and verify them and replicate, which science is all about replication, right? You should be doing that.
Yes.
We have not been doing that, a good job of that in many disciplines. We're starting to do that now. So my kind of wrap up for this is I actually see this as kind of a good thing, not that there is fraud and manipulation of data, but that science is catching it, right? It's the scientists who are catching other scientists manipulating data, because science is in fact self-correcting. All it takes is one person to go, hold on, I read that study, I found it a little hard to believe, I tried to recreate it, I couldn't. They published their results, and now you open the a can of worms to basically say who's right. And then people can do this. So science is self-correcting. People make mistakes, but science as a method is as good as we have at closing in on reality despite the failings of the users. Thus, my question for you, Josh, can we agree that even though it is not perfect, science is the best method for understanding the natural world?
Yeah, that's pretty obvious. I mean, you oversimplify that by saying if one person finds the error in the data or something like that they can just fix everything. That's not true.
No, they have to go through a battle to then get it fixed.
Exactly.
Right?
And they have to be properly placed. They have to have enough weight behind them to overturn the findings that are often very much influenced by confirmation bias. So that might be a slight oversimplification, but yes, I absolutely agree with your overall point. Yeah, science is great.
Yay.
I don't know why you're pitching these freaking softballs.
Because my third one is not a softball.
Is an apple red?
Yeah. No, it can be green. It could be rotten.
Okay, coming back at you, Ryan. Ryan, would you agree that rather than disparagingly labeling conservatives as anti-science, a more productive label would be?
I didn't catch the last part.
The last
So
word. You
a
cut
more
out.
productive label would be traditionalists, traditional people.
Okay, and this kind of goes back to my first point. It's not that the people on the right are anti-science. Okay, it's that the proper place of conservatives is to say, hold on, let's be careful of what we're doing. And I'm actually going to agree with Ryan on this one and take a shot at the right. Okay. Because there are areas where the conservatives, that is the dumbest dance. You think you're winning something because I'm objective?
No.
It is priest. Okay, so there are areas where the right gets it wrong. Okay. The right gets it wrong. That's interesting. Where the right is so entrenched in its position of being conservative that they get it's not necessarily because they're anti-science. This is how we've done it for so long. This is how we should keep doing it. And we've talked about some of these. The war on drugs, there's way more pushback from the right than on the left for legalizing this stuff. But not even the left's pushing for what Ryan and I want to do with it.
So you're saying rather they're not opposing science or scientific results, but they're more just apprehensive about
Change.
adapting. Yeah,
that's a good way to phrase it, Tom. The right doesn't like change intrinsically. Okay, and so
Right.
we've been my whole life we've had this war on drugs. Drugs are bad. We've had the war on poverty. It's not working the way we're doing it. The war on terror is not really working, but it gets ingrained into our psyches that's just how you deal with drugs. You throw these people in jail, that'll fix them. There is some science behind that saying no, that doesn't work. Okay, there are precedents in other countries stating clearly that doesn't work. There's better ways to tackle this, but because the traditionalists on the right, because that's how we've always done it, that's what we know, they do get in this entrenched position that is wrong. And I wouldn't say it's anti-science. They're not saying, no, I don't believe the data. They're not looking at the data. Okay. Nobody's bringing it up. The left's not bringing it up on the war on drugs. Okay. That's fair, right, Ryan?
Yeah.
So it's not that they're anti-science. It's not that we on the right are anti-science. It's that we have our traditions and it's our proper place in society to protect those traditions. But sometimes we're wrong because we get too entrenched and we're not looking at the scientific data. So I'll give the left this one here. It's not anti-science. It's just people are being stupid. People are too entrenched in their positions and too certain that they're right, that they're not open to new ideas. So this is where the right does get it wrong. The conservatives are wrong on several issues because that's just the way we've done it. That's the way we're going to keep doing it. Back in my day, that's how we did it.
Your question is that we be more productive if we just stayed like, because you're saying that the anti-science label is
It's not helpful.
antagonistic.
Yeah, very good. It's not a helpful label for the left to say you're anti-science, because that's a whole. They're using a political. It's a political movement for them to say we're infallible because you're anti-science. That's not helpful. That's really stupid, and I'm going to prove that wrong with my third point. So Ryan, would you agree that it would be more helpful to call the right traditionalists rather than anti-science psychopaths?
Can I give you like 80-ish% agreement? And you'll see why with my next point. I get your point. I actually do get your point. And I think I generally agree that just labeling people, calling people names isn't very productive. We've talked about this before on the podcast. So I get the point. I think with my next point, I'm going to show that, in fact, there are some areas where the right rejects scientific findings.
Okay,
not that they reject science per se, right? That was all my setup, right? My setup is science is a method. Most people agree that it's the best method for understanding the natural world.
Pretty boring. Yes.
Yes. Now we're going to get to some scientific findings that certain people tend to reject.
Okay. Hit me with your partisan.
So, did you say you had what was the percentage on your
like 80% agreement? Does that get a buzzer? Does that get a ding?
No, let's get a ding. Yeah.
Ding.
80%, I guess. Okay. All right. Okay. Josh, come back at this is gonna be quick. We're going fast. All right, Josh, can we agree that some this is the whole thing? All right, okay. Can we agree that some Republicans, conservatives do reject, or at a minimum, are unaware of some scientific findings that are universally accepted among scientists when those findings disagree with their religious or ideological views? I'll let you fill in. Garnish that a little
part,
more. Yeah.
Okay. So I'm going to do a little exercise. If you two are willing to participate. To get to my primary point, addressing the question this week, I want to do a rapid fire series of questions to see where the two of you accept scientific findings and where perhaps you may not.
Oh, so you set up a really stupid gotcha situation.
I'm not trying to do a gotcha. I'm genuinely not trying to do a gotcha. I'm trying to get at the nuanced argument that I want to make, which is that I don't really think Republicans are anti-science. They just reject certain scientific findings because they don't align with their a priori worldview.
All right.
So if you two are willing to stand in, thank you. If you're willing to stand in as conservatives, which I mean, that's what Josh is billed at. Can we go ahead and do this?
Okay.
Yeah. So Tom hasn't seen these. I only sent him my questions this time. I didn't send him my whole essays, right?
Okay.
First question.
Essays.
Yes. First question. Does smoking cigarettes increase the odds of lung cancer?
I would say yes.
I think so. Yeah.
There's some doubt here. Come on.
Well, I'm like, is this a trick question?
Well, yeah, I don't know where you're going with this, so I'm guarded.
I'm
Everything I've ever seen says it very much increases lung cancer. Yes.
The science is unequivocal on this. Absolutely.
Okay. Yes.
I'm trying to establish some common ground here, right? To establish that conservatives don't reject all science. What is the shape of the Earth?
It's round.
I saw a Pillow Cube commercial the other day that said it's a cube, actually.
Okay.
There's some pretty compelling arguments about flat. I can't even say that with a straight face. It's a globe.
It's a globe. Okay. So we can agree on this. Like, these are basic scientific findings. Which revolves around which? The sun around the earth or vice versa?
I'm a heliocentric kind of guy, so.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, me too. Earth around the sun.
Okay. So we're good. What is the source of tsunamis?
Is it earthquakes?
I like that it was a question, right? This is not Jeopardy, but it was framed in the form of a question. Josh?
What is earthquake?
The source of tsunamis? That would be high pressure, low pressure systems coming together.
No, that's a hurricane.
Oh, hurricanes. Oh, yeah, tsunamis. Those are just the big waves. That'd be earthquakes.
Good. And what causes earthquakes?
Tectonic plates shifting.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah. I mean, Josh, we're good?
Yeah.
Okay. What caused the Big Bang?
Oh, yeah.
Caused the Big Bang.
Well, okay. You don't want to get into this, but if
Tom
froze.
Say that again, Tom. You froze for a second.
Am I back?
Yep.
Yeah.
I was going to say, if you subscribe to expansionist theory, it's that it wasn't there wasn't a Big Bang, but that we came back to a point, and then it was from a previous expansion, right?
Which is totally possible, right?
Right, but yes, but I don't think anyone knows that, right?
That is, in fact, the correct answer. No one knows. According to science, we don't know the answer to that.
Right.
Okay. So that's the correct answer. Josh didn't answer that one, but that's okay. How old is the universe?
Pretty old.
How old?
Something like 7 billion or something like that.
I don't remember off the top of my head. It's been a while since I read Asimov.
Between 14 and 15 billion years old. Okay. Both of you agree with that?
Sure.
How old is the Earth?
That's where it starts getting good.
Is this like a science quiz? Like, I don't
It
remember.
It is.
A couple billion years old. I don't remember.
4.4, 4.5, right?
Okay.
And again, both of you agree with this, yes?
4.5.
There's some hesitation here by Tom.
Yeah. I will. Okay. Yeah. I will say I agree with it.
Okay. What is going to happen to the Earth in the next 10 billion years?
It'll be destroyed.
By?
The sun.
Okay. You guys are really, like
A plethora of. Yeah. I don't know. Actually, I have no idea. But
No?
it will be.
Okay. I'm astonished at some of your responses here, but this is great. What is the eventual fate of the universe?
So again, I'm an expansionist, so I believe it will go back into it will retract.
Okay.
So that's my theory.
It's not current leading understanding of
Right.
science, but that's okay.
Well, yeah, it is a popular.
It is a theory, but the
I don't-
evidence does not support it at this point.
I would beg to differ, but yes, it's okay.
Josh, what's going to happen? What's the eventual fate of the universe?
Yeah, I mean, again, I'm not a astrophysicist, but I think Tom's correct. I think it expands and contracts.
So we'll move on. Do humans have a common ancestor with chimpanzees?
With chimpanzees, I don't know, but we have a common ancestor. Yes, it's probably something like a chimpanzee.
But I didn't say they descended from chimpanzees. I said, do they have a common ancestor with chimpanzees? It's a very carefully worded question. Tom, are you still there?
Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah. And your answer is?
I don't know.
Okay. Do humans have a common ancestor with bacteria?
So I believe in evolution. I believe in the whole evolution thing. So I would say yes. It depends on how you define these, but yes, I would say yes to the previous question too. I'd say yes and no. And on the Earth is 12 or 2 billion.
4.5 billion years old.
4.5. Yeah. I would put an I don't know on that one as well. So I said yes, but I would put I don't know.
Okay. No, you're doing what I wanted you to do, right?
Mhm.
It's not that it's a trap. I'm not trying to trap you. This is
Right.
genuinely not a trap. It's an
Mhm.
illustration. It's an illustration. We're not quite done. I've got 4 more.
This
3
is
of
so
these
silly.
are nasty. It is not silly. It's my
Do
point.
it. Keep going.
4 more. Are humans contributing to the warming of the climate?
I absolutely believe that it is.
Yeah, looks like it is.
Okay.
Looks like we are.
Will anointing someone with sacred oil and praying over them fix a broken leg?
Ooh, you're getting into
It can. Yes.
yeah.
Okay. Are Native Americans more closely related genetically to Asians or Jews?
Yeah, I have no idea.
I don't know.
Okay. And my last one, because I had to throw some social science in. When women have equivalent qualifications to men, about how much do they make for doing the same work on average?
That is such a dumb question because you're not going to
Is that-
factor in the important parts. You're not going
It's
to
even
factor
science.
No, it's not actually.
It's
The left
social science.
the left
That's what
tries
I
to pass
do.
this one off. They don't factor in the dangerous nature of jobs. They don't factor in that men are more willing to relocate for work. They don't factor in men are more willing to work more hours. So they don't factor any of that stuff in, and then they claim this crazy discrepancy between men and women in the workplace. It's
Yeah.
quite ridiculous.
You didn't hear the question, did you?
I
When
think it
women
was-
have equivalent qualifications. So if we control for everything else,
They are
which
paid
we
the
can
same.
do mathematically,
because
They-
you have been able
they
to
are
sue.
not paid the same.
You've been able to sue since the 60s if you can prove that you are being paid less than a man for doing the same job and you have the same qualifications, but nobody does that because the left refuses to qualify these numbers.
Okay,
7%, right? I thought it was 7% that
It's about 80%. They make about 80% of what men make when they're equally qualified.
20% less.
Bull crap.
That's much higher than any stats I've heard.
Because
I've
it's
read
bull
about.
crap. Because if you can prove that, you can sue the company for millions of dollars. That's been on the books for 70 years, but nobody
Yeah.
I
does
love
it.
that. I love that we're fighting over science, even though the
That one's
data
a-
are pretty much irrefutable.
Uh,
Okay, so
Yeah.
What I did
that's,
here.
That's the problem with science. That what you just did. This is the whole problem.
Josh,
You
how
just
many
said,
articles do you want me to send you?
I'm irrefutable because it's science, and I just told you all of the problems with
How many
the scientific
articles?
findings.
How many articles showing that stat do you want me to send you?
How many do you want me to send you showing the exact opposite? What I
Peer-reviewed,
Right.
peer-reviewed, published
yes,
articles.
Yes.
Okay. Give me 2. I'll accept 2 from you. And I will send you what, 200, 500, 1,000?
Yeah.
I would like to see one. I'd like to see one peer-reviewed published article in a scientific
Okay,
journal.
get to your
establishes
stupid
this.
point that Christians are anti-science.
No.
Where are you going with this?
I'm not. My point with this battery of questions is that there are some basic scientific findings that are largely not objectionable to conservatives and religious people, like the first 5 questions. We all agreed on those. And in fact, you guys went even further than I thought. Okay. But there are other basic scientific findings for which there is universal agreement among scientists, but religious people, note my caveat here, religious people have problems with those findings, either because those findings conflict with their religious beliefs or because they are not aware of the science on these topics. That's the case with a number of those questions, and that's why I asked him. This was not meant to be a gotcha. I'm not trying to be a jerk about this. I'm literally saying there are people who reject certain well-established scientific findings. Careful here in what I'm trying to say, okay? At some level, if people are rejecting scientific findings, that necessarily suggests that they are opposed at some level to science as a method for understanding the natural world, at least when that method generates findings they don't like. Okay, so I'm not saying they reject all science. This is why I agreed with you for 80% of the agreement on that last one. I don't like calling people anti-science because, and you're going to see this here, I'm actually going to give a prop to a bunch of to Republicans on this, right? To extend what we just did to the US population, I ran these numbers this morning in preparation for this. In the General Social Survey, which is a nationally representative survey of adult Americans who are not institutionalized, there are a number of science knowledge questions. Republicans are actually more likely to get questions like, is the core of the earth hot and the father's genes determine the sex of a child correct, than are Democrats. They're not big margins, but they're very small margins, but Republicans win on those questions. But 59.8% of Republicans say humans did not evolve. 43% of Democrats say the same thing. Okay, so evolution fully accepted by the scientific community. And a larger percentage of Republicans, for religious reasons, for the most part, are rejecting that. And this is fact, right? I'm just laying out a fact. Republicans are also less likely to accept that the universe started with a Big Bang. So this gets to my big question. Josh, can we agree that some Republicans/conservatives do reject, or at a minimum, are unaware of some scientific findings that are universally accepted among scientists when those findings disagree with their religious or ideological views? And what Tom left off is my second piece. And if it increases the odds that we can agree, I'll even add that I think the same is true for Democrats and progressives, some of whom reject vaccines because they're idiots. Because they have other beliefs that lead them to reject vaccines.
Okay, as long as you throw that caveat in, because it's not really, I wouldn't draw that line down party lines.
I'm not. I'm trying not to do it down party lines.
Okay,
people reject science.
That's going to be my next point, is pointing out that the left does this too.
Yep, they do.
I'll grant what you're saying, but look at the things that religious people either reject or have issues with. They're not the laws of science, okay, the laws of physics. They're the theories, the stuff that's really, it's established, but it's not provable. The theory of evolution, it's not a law.
The age of the earth.
You can't really prove that. I mean, we have carbon dating and that sort of stuff. So to the best of our knowledge, that's what it is. And that's what it looks like it is.
Can we all agree that the earth is more than 6,000 years old? Like, we all agree on this call, right? But there are literally millions of Americans who think it's 6,000. Josh, there are trees that are more than 6,000 years old. We can literally count their rings.
Cool.
That's
we
not
don't
even a
have,
theory. We
but we don't
literally
have
can just
anybody
count the
that's
rings.
6,000 years old saying, "Yeah, I remember when that tree was planted." Okay, so their
That's what
theories,
it requires.
they're not provable. Well, just
Come
listen to what I'm saying.
on.
Just listen to what I'm saying. You don't have the religious people saying, "No, I don't believe in the law of gravity," because it's a law. There is a distinction between law and theory and science. Yes.
Uh,
Yes.
you need to define both of those for me.
Oh my gosh. No, I don't. You know what I'm saying.
No, actually, you do, because what people think when they say theory is not what scientists mean when they say theory.
I
Most
know.
people
the
think
theory of evolution is well established. Already granted
Yes.
that.
Okay,
Okay, it's well established.
most people
it's well
think
accepted.
that theory is just like, oh, this is my theory on that.
They're not talking
That's not
to
what
most
scientists
people.
mean.
I'm talking
Okay.
to you. You know
Got
what I
it.
mean.
I do.
Right? So I'm just making that distinction. So religious people, the hangups that do exist are all with theoretical science. Okay, with
Evolution?
theories. It's a theory. It's the theory of evolution. It's not a
Right.
law. It's not. It's not
Sure,
100%
it's not a law,
provable.
but Newton's first law only applies in certain contexts. Just because you call it a law doesn't mean that it's actually a universal law that exists everywhere. That's just what he called it, right? No, it's under certain conditions his laws apply on this planet under this gravity under
Okay.
these.
But they always
Right?
apply under those conditions, and it's provable
Sure.
and it's repeatable. Okay, this
And
is
so is
science,
evolution. And so is evolution.
but it's still a
We
theory.
literally can observe it.
Okay, and
Sure,
see,
because
you're
what
trying to
makes
paint
it
me
a theory.
that I disagree with that.
Yeah.
I know, and I don't think we do. But what makes evolution a theory is that theoretically it is falsifiable. But what would we have to find to falsify evolution at this point?
When God shows up, when Jesus shows up in a couple
There you
years,
go. It would have to be something
you're
that
gonna find out.
improbable. That improbable.
Okay, see, that's where the derision comes in. Not improbable. Okay,
Well, it's highly
Josh,
improbable.
you do agree to some extent that conservatives, there are some conservatives that do reject scientific
There's
findings, right?
everybody
What's that
that reject science,
Right. And
Right.
that's the caveat is that, and there are liberals that reject the,
and we'll get into that with my next question. But yeah, I'll give you agreement,
Yeah.
obviously, and some people are very much controlled by their confirmation bias. I mean, it's such a broad brush to paint people with. But
This is why I don't like it. And this is why I gave you 80% agreement, right? I gave you 80% agreement because I don't like calling them anti-science because they're only anti-science on certain things, right? But others are anti-science on their other things. So
Well,
do you understand? Like, I'm trying to be
yeah,
nuanced.
and it's fair
Okay.
what you said, because you did say those are facts that Republicans are more likely to disagree with those things. That is a fact. Yeah, I'll give you that.
Yeah. Ryan, though the left tries to claim to be the party of that is pro-science, wouldn't you agree it is actually far more accurate to call the left the party of emotional temper tantrums?
This is my dirty shot. Okay, so the left upholds itself for political reasons as the party of science. Okay, what scientific backing was there in defund the police? Was there any social science data that was a good idea to defund the police? Was there any historical data that it was a good idea to get rid of the police? Because what happened in every liberal city where they got rid of the police? What are we seeing this year?
Is this a question? Or
Well,
are
if you
we
wanna
still
answer it
rhetorical
honestly.
questions? No, I don't want to answer it honestly.
Of course not, because you're liberal.
right.
In the modern era,
Where's my temper
unprecedented-
tantrum? I want my
unprecedented-
emotional temper
Finish.
tantrum.
in the modern era, we've seen unprecedented rises in crime. It's a crazy crime wave because they defunded the police. Okay, and this all came about not because they're saying scientifically this would be a good idea to get rid of police. No, they were very emotional about the whole George Floyd thing and Black Lives Matters, and they reacted emotionally. There was no science behind that, right? Another one of my favorite things is the left stance on gender. Okay, Ryan already touched on this. We got to get rid of the patriarchy because men are evil and women don't get paid as much. But gender's fluid and gender's not really a thing, and there's a million genders and it's not binary, and you can be whatever gender you want. But men are so evil. I mean, it doesn't even make sense. The left's take on this. Certainly, did you guys have Mr. Mowry for your science teacher?
Yeah, I love
was great.
Gary
Great
Mowry.
ninth grade science teacher.
He
he
taught
taught
in
me-
high school too, though.
Yeah, ninth grade. It was Morgan.
And-
Yeah, but he taught my AP biology class too.
Yeah, I had him a couple times. Great,
Okay.
great science
Yeah.
teacher.
Yes.
He taught me
And-
that humans are binary. They're male and female. That is science. The left is having a really tough time with this. What is wrong with you? That is science. Humans are male and female.
No, it's more complicated.
No, it is not.
Hey,
See,
are there
the left- the left-
intersex individuals?
Yeah, that's considered what's the word?
Oh, be careful. Careful here.
Excuse me. I can't think of the word when it's so far in the minority that
It's a really
not
small
liar.
percentage.
it's not
but-
liar. Okay.
Yeah, I
But they
wouldn't go that
exist.
far, but
Well, yeah,
certainly.
scientifically speaking, they are an outlier. That is not the normal way that it happens. Okay.
And
They
your
exist.
point, Josh, is that the whole entire population is saying anybody can be anything at any time. You know, this
Well,
is
that's
sort
the
of
left's
like,
take. They're
Right.
saying we're anti-science, but they can't even accept ninth grade biology class
right.
where there are. I'm sorry, there are just two genders, and you can do the whole sexuality thing, whatever, go for it. But humans are male and female. Okay, that is science. That's how it's always been taught. That's how it should be continued to be taught.
So, Ryan, do you agree that there merit to Josh's argument that the
He already
party-
he already
the-
agreed. The left.
Wait.
the
Can you
left
just?
does
I
this a
want
lot?
the actual question again because
Yeah.
the actual question was so beautifully loaded that I want to laugh again.
Wouldn't you agree? It is actually far more accurate to call the left the party of emotional temper tantrums rather than the party that is pro-science.
Okay,
Probably not.
I'm taking a cheap shot there.
Yes, you're taking a cheap
The-
shot.
the
Give me
left-
your actual question, and we'll try
the
and see if
the
we can get
left
agreement.
responds with emotion more than science. Okay, if you look at modern day issues, and we could go through all.
You
of them,
really
but
think
we
that
don't
they're
wanna take
more
time.
likely to respond with emotion than the right?
I think now, yeah, I think so. I really do.
I
mean,
think both respond with emotion all the time. I mean, the
I-
right is
I
outrage
agree.
and fear. It's
I
outrage
agree.
and fear, and then the left is outrage and outrage. How dare you? How dare you? Right? Be
That's
angry,
actually-
get mad.
That's actually
and
a
then-
pretty good summation.
Yeah, it's outrage,
so
outrage, and outrage.
I took a
and fear.
shot at the right. Now I'm taking a shot at the left. I think both sides get it wrong. Neither side is really. Let's let the scientists do it. Both sides have a political agenda. That's my problem.
Yeah. Josh, I would think that would be a better question is like, would it be fair to say that the left party also has their, I guess you call it sacred cows that they reject science on?
Much
Which
better
we
way
already
to
agreed
word
on
it,
that.
but it wasn't as dirty of a shot.
Right. Right.
Which
But
we
no,
already
you-
agreed on from my point three. But I would agree.
Okay, so it's not helpful for the left to say the right's the party of anti-science. It's just political posturing, because both sides do it. Both sides have their confirmation bias, like Tom said. They both have their political cow that they're going to protect and overlook any data that everybody does this. Everybody is guilty of confirmation bias. Okay, we all overlook stuff that doesn't fit the facts that we want to one degree or another. Ryan, you do it too. Everybody does.
I
it.
don't do it, Josh. That's why I'm giving you that grimace. I
But
don't
you
do
do. You know,
I know
you
I
do.
do. But
all
I'm really good about it. You would not believe the number of conversations and debates in my house that have been settled by turning to the scientific literature. That when we do this, because both of us have access to whatever scientific literature we want, right, through our work. So when we're like, I disagree with you, we go to the scientific literature, and that's how we resolve our debates. We're totally geeky. We're totally weird. We debate statistical techniques in the shower together sometimes, right? Like we're weird.
Is there
That
like
got-
this?
that
This
got
reminds me of like like in U.S. versus Santa Clara, right, or something like that.
Yeah.
That sounds like legal precedents, right?
Yes,
Do
that's how we run.
Do you find that those are there ever like, well, there was this study here, but then this one kind of came along and superseded it? Do you find that that happens?
Excuse me, it does. And this is part of the reason why those kinds of changes, they do happen. Don't get me wrong. They absolutely
Right.
happen. A lot of them happen and I don't want to say health broadly, but on like diet things. So
Yeah.
you'll certainly see 15 years ago, eggs were terrible. Never eat an egg.
Right.
And then 5 years later, they're like, egg is the perfect cholesterol,
Constantly
right?
changing.
Yeah. So I really don't put a lot of weight in some of those very specific food findings, just because I know that stuff changes and it depends on, exactly how people are measuring things.
Oh, you're terrible.
Wait! Stop! Don't eat that food!
Who are you? What are you doing in our house?
I'm from the future. I'm here to warn you, don't eat that food.
Why not?
The eggs, they're full of cholesterol.
What?
Cholesterol, it clogs up your arteries. Eating even just one egg can dramatically increase your chance of heart attack. Don't eat eggs.
Oh my God, thank you.
You're welcome. Godspeed.
Well, I guess I better take those eggs.
Wait! Stop!
You're back!
Yeah, we were wrong about the eggs.
How?
Well, it turns out there's two types of cholesterol. There's good cholesterol and bad cholesterol, and eggs actually have both. So you can eat eggs, but just don't eat the egg yolks. So stick with the egg whites.
Yes, thank you.
Godspeed. Wait! We were wrong about the eggs.
Again?
Yeah, okay, so it turns out that the amount of cholesterol in a food doesn't actually affect how much cholesterol ends up in your blood. The eggs are probably fine. In fact, we sort of don't even know what cholesterol is. But the steak! You can't eat the steak!
Why not?
Turns out that red meat increases your chance of heart attack. You have to cut out red meat. So no steak!
Thank you.
Godspeed.
What? No steak, mister.
What?
Wait! We were wrong about the steak. It's the toast. Man was not meant to eat bread.
What do you mean man was not meant to eat bread?
Well, if you think about it, human beings should really only be eating what our Paleolithic ancestors ate. So, therefore, no bread, no toast.
How do you know what our Paleolithic ancestors ate?
Well, we just have to guess, right? I mean, we don't have any way of knowing. Whew. Okay. Went back to the Paleolithic. They are not doing well. I don't know what we were thinking. If anything, we should all be eating a lot more bread. Jeez. So I guess just ignore everything I've said and exercise.
Exercise, okay.
Yeah, you guys could probably use it. You've been just sitting here for the last 35 years.
It's been 5 minutes.
Right. Time travel. All right, well, Godspeed. Turns out it's genetic. Doesn't matter whether you exercise or what you eat. I'm sorry I ruined your meal.
I need 10 minutes.
Do you want some eggs?
I'd love some.
But a lot of the big stuff, you don't really find that, right? So it's not like in Nature, right, or in Science, the two kind of biggest journals where people publish this, that, every other day somebody's like, well, I found something that doesn't support evolution. And somebody's like, no, I found something. Those kinds of big questions, you don't really get debate over those, right? You get debate on nuance. So like, how did this specific gene evolve, right? People will debate those kinds of things all the time. In my area, I mean, I can give you a very specific example. There was a great little debate that played out in my area talking about the decline of religiosity in the US. And it was a debate between two big names. And one guy who just graduated from graduate school, and I feel kind of bad for him. It's a shout out for Landon Schnabel. But he was saying, we're not actually seeing declines in religiosity among the really, really religious. And two huge names came in and just like hammered him. And they're like, actually, we are seeing that. And what it boiled down to is they were measuring things slightly differently.
Yeah.
So there are debates on the edges and on nuance. Occasionally you'll get like big things overturned in every field, but that's pretty rare. Most of the core ideas are just established and we fight over the nuances.
I've heard it described as we're circling the toilet bowl, in that we're slowly we're kind of like getting closer.
Yep.
But yeah, we're still discovering new things and adjusting. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Okay, good. Well, we had 100% agreement today, guys. That was interesting.
Josh, what is wrong with us?
So this was it. I'll go into Tommy's take on stuff. Okay.
All right.
This is so that was interesting that we both agreed that yes, both the right and the left seem to cherry pick the science that they like, right? And actually, so it did. I was waiting for this to get brought up about the origins of the coronavirus origins, right? In that it was a lab leak theory. And that really got rejected during the Trump administration. It wasn't until Trump was out of office that they were like, okay, we think there's actually some merit to that argument. And there's a lot of scientific findings that supported that, but it got largely rejected. It seemed to be that was a big story in that seemed to be politically motivated to
That was the
ignore
video
science.
that I wanted to show was
okay.
Jon Stewart on Stephen Colbert.
And when I interviewed you for it, you were talking about how little progress we've made in science in combating pandemics, because in 1918, the advice was wear a mask, wash your hands.
That's right.
And 103 years later, wear a mask, wash your hands.
It was soul crushing to find that. I was really hoping that like in 1918, they'd be like, drink a tincture of mercury and butterfly juice. Like I was hoping it'd be like some bizarre thing. And I'm like, we've come a long way, baby. It's the exact same.
How do you feel about the science now, though?
So I will say this. I honestly mean this. I think we owe a great debt of gratitude to science. Science has, in many ways, helped ease the suffering of this pandemic, which was more than likely caused by science.
And if you haven't seen that video, go watch it because it's brilliant. And it really does show, I think, the disconnect and why a lot of people don't trust science is because we get lied to a lot. And he mentions in that video that scientists don't know when to stop. It's like the Jurassic Park thing is kind of what he's going into.
Jurassic Park would be awesome.
Well, I agree.
Admit it.
But when Ian Malcolm says they were so interested in seeing if they could do it, they didn't stop to think if they should do it.
Right.
Okay.
And this is my take, Josh.
Enter conservatives.
Wait. The one thing that I thought was is that science is, I think what Ryan brought up is self-correcting. And what I've antagonized Ryan with before is the statement that you're saying that it's always wrong. Whatever you say, it's always wrong. In that you're going to come back later and correct it. And while I was being kind of poking at him at that, I do think it is that circle of the toilet bowl in that the corrections are usually minor. But I do think that there are sometimes important, like foundational and fundamental aspects that we haven't actually that are somewhere in the middle of that toilet bowl that we haven't gotten to and probably may never get to, and they're actually very fundamental. And so there's arguments of like, this is the one I brought up with Ryan before a long time ago, was that is information an ingredient to the universe? And there's like energy and mass and are all ingredients, but is information, and meaning like is a proton positive or negative? Was that part, was information a byproduct of the creation of the universe, or was it an ingredient? Meaning, and if it was an ingredient, that's sort of like a foundation for God, right? Of like the word said that you were going to be a positive proton, therefore it became a positive proton.
Intelligent
And-
design.
Right.
kind of
And
theory. Yeah.
exactly. And that is, we don't know yet. And we keep circling, but it's sort of that fundamental question that we're going to get to eventually in the middle that will kind of flip everything on its head of like, well, if it is, then that changes everything. But if it isn't, it doesn't change it. But we're still circling. And I think there are foundational answers that we haven't discovered that will flip things on its head that we haven't gotten to. So I do think there's some, science it admittedly is a humble, learner of the natural world, and we're constantly discovering, and that makes it beautiful. But that also, I do think there is merit to be skeptical of some things and some findings. And I do, and I would say one other thing that I do think that the term settled science does get abused sometimes. They're like, oh, this is
Absolutely.
settled science. And that it always isn't as settled as we think it is. And so that's, I do think there's grounds to push back at times. But science is a great thing. And it's gotten us so much in our lives that I think it needs to be more respected than it probably is. I think Fauci, here's my take on Fauci. I think he's made a lot of mistakes. I don't think he's intentionally trying to mislead anyone. And I do think he's trying to do the right thing, and he gets villainized a lot by the right, but like I don't think he's being malicious by any means. And yeah, sure, he's made mistakes, but we've been learning about things as we go. And maybe he's like kind of misrepresented some things, but he had it with good intentions to help people. And I'll
agree with that. He did have good intentions, but he has out and out lied to mislead people. He's basically admitted that, but with good intentions to try to get more people vaccinated. But he did lie. He lied about it. It was,
I think, I don't know. I think people have been very vicious about that. And I don't think it's been, it's been productive for us to jump on some of those things. But anyway,
Brad Pitt did play him on SNL. Just saying.
All right, give me your closing
up for it all.
statements. Okay, who wants to give their closing statement first? Who's ready?
Josh, go.
I like what you said there, Tom, and I like, so science is not done. Okay, and the core of science, Ryan talked about this, is to be cautious, to be what's the word you used just a second ago, Tom?
It's conservative. Oh, I was going to say science is conservative.
Well, it is conservative, but to be wary of that's part of science, is being wary of it. Okay, being wary of your findings. You're supposed to disprove your findings. What I think the big problem is in the country is, and this goes back to my first statement, the job of the right is to make sure that we're not abandoning principles that are working, and the job of the left is to push us forward so it's a better system for everybody. And both sides need to be doing that. And I guess until we get to Ryan's utopian world, because he has issues with what I'm saying, but it has worked so far. But I think the left both sides are so politicized now and partisan. The left is like, you know what? The system's not working. Let's try socialism. Nobody's tried that before. And obviously that doesn't work. Ryan's no longer a proponent of that. And the right is over here going, we know that doesn't work. So we're not going to listen to anything you guys say because you just keep coming back to these stupid socialist ideals. So now we don't trust each other at all. The left's not proposing anything that's actually really helpful. And the right is so dug in at this point saying, this is how we've done stuff. They're not open to trying anything new. So neither side's doing its job. But for the left to say the right's anti-science, it's a political grandstanding. It's political maneuvering, and I don't like it.
Okay, Ryan.
I think I hit my big points. It's not entirely inaccurate to say that at times the right and the left reject scientific findings that they don't find convenient. And it goes both ways, right? With the exception of myself and my wife, everybody rejects the science that they don't agree with, right? And the two of us, we are weird and we're unusual. No, we do too, I'm sure. so that's the part that I actually get more frustrated about, right? I get Josh's point. I think his point is a good one, that if you're just going to call people names, it's not going to further any discussion, right? I did send that little comic that I sent to both of you that I thought was pretty good last time, right? Yeah, that they're like, oh, we got to fix this road. What's the first thing we do? Let's fight, right? So they fight about it, right? And it's left and right. They fight, they knock each other out. And then somebody comes by and they're like, hey, did you fix the road? And they're like, no, but we beat the crap out of each other. Right. That's basically our political system right now. Like it boils down to just calling each other names and not getting anything done. Me being on the left, I get frustrated that the conservatives, right? They crap on all of our ideas and then don't propose any of their own. Right. I get really frustrated by that. But to Josh's point, that's kind of the role that they play. It would be nice if we could find a middle road where it's like, okay, let's listen, right, and see, and maybe we can have reasonable discussions about how to move forward. And honestly, I would love it if people would actually listen to scientists. Our politicians don't. I've been interviewed hundreds of times for articles in newspapers and magazines. You know how many politicians have called me to ask what we should do on some political issue?
How many, Ryan?
Let me see. Can I count them on zero? Never. Not a single time. So they just don't listen to the science. And I think that goes to Josh's point that it's on both sides, right? They have political agendas, it's not rooted in science. And that's not true in other countries. In other countries, they actually do put scientists in charge. Sweden did it for the pandemic. They just said, here, take over.
We agreed on that. We should have done that here. And didn't the numbers prove out that there's more Democrats that are unvaccinated than Republicans right now?
I would be astonished by that. Last time I saw it was Republicans who are more likely to be unvaccinated.
I thought it was the other way.
But maybe that has changed in the last month because of the Delta variant. I don't know. I haven't looked recently.
Okay. So. Well, that was an interesting podcast, right? So less disagreement than I thought there would be. And thanks again. Ask questions. If there's something that we didn't touch on that you want us to, please ask a question, put it in the or make a comment, put it in the comments below. We like to read those. And thank you for our sponsor, Lux Bidet, and appreciate that. And if we all are big fans of bidets, and like for a sophisticated podcast, it's a sophisticated tool. So if you haven't experienced the miracle of a bidet, please get yourself one.
Hey, the science is in on bidets. Okay, if you're just smearing around fecal matter with wood, with thin pieces of wood, you're not clean. Okay,
barbarian
science.
Josh, we may not always agree when it comes to politics, even though we're trying, but there is one thing we agree on. There is only one way to clean up after going to the bathroom, and that's with a Lux bidet.
I've been a proud owner of a Lux bidet for years. I have literally owned a Lux Neo 320 since 2013. That's the warm water model. Talk about happy, fun, poopy time. When I leave the bathroom, I know I'm clean and ready to talk politics in a civilized manner.
Exactly. Using a toilet without a bidet is about as uncivilized as it gets. Civil conversations demand civil hygiene practices.
And that is why our listeners should get themselves a Lux bidet.
And just to be clear, Lux is not supporting one side or the other in this podcast. They support civil conversations and clean butts.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of Finding Common Battlegrounds. The music is by Ben Sound. The views expressed in this podcast are those of the participants and not those of their employers. For more information or more episodes, you can find us at findingcommonbattlegrounds.com.